one.
Hey guys, this is Chesney Hawks here. You are watching My Hammers 11 with the one and only Russ.
Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe and well. If you channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon to be made available anytime we put new content on. As obviously, we like to thank our channel sponsor, Untuck It. Check them out in the description below. Father's Day soon, so you want to get some nice shirts for the old man, that type of thing. Today, we've got another ex-Hammer all the way across the world, halfway across the world as well, in Melbourne, Australia. He made three first-team appearances for the club, and the last one actually was on my birthday. So there we go. Steve Mautone. How are we doing, Steve?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, we're unfortunately my part of Australia. We're back in lockdown, so we're just going for a second week. We've only got 5 cases, but we're in lockdown, mate. They're so paranoid here, but anyway, we've got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, but I'm not being funny. That's not bad. Yeah, but it's like, you know, we have like how many thousands of cases, and yeah, so 5 and it's all shut down. That's what I mean. It's
shut down. So I got my ISO beard, mate. So
you don't take no shit. Anyone. That's what I like. That's what I love about the Australian, the way the government handled it. No shit. That's it. Lock all the borders, shut everything down. And hopefully you get back to some normal. So how apart from obviously the lockdown beard, 2 weeks. Oh, my heart bleeds. 2 weeks in hot lockdown. Oh my God, poor Steve. Poor Steve. How are you, man?
Well, what do you do? I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, I'm good. I a little bit depressed because we are locked down, but all in all, things are going pretty well. Yeah, I think we're probably fairly lucky here in Australia with circumstances around the world. I mean, I keep a close eye on you guys in the UK, and we're fairly lucky here, I think, in terms of the fact that we are isolated. But it is a terrible time around the world. It has been for the last 12 months, and not only just for what's going on. I suppose the bigger picture of the illnesses that sort of go with this kind of pandemic. But for me, the thing that I think about, and probably my son's going through it, is only just 12 years old, is that it's just constantly stop and start with their football. Like he's loving it. He plays. He loves it. And we're shut down another 2 weeks, sort of 5 weeks into their season. And I kind of think about the guys who are probably starting to get close and wanting to go overseas or try and have a crack at becoming professionals and maybe going overseas and giving it a go. You just can't. Where would you go? I mean, that would never have entered our minds that we weren't able to go overseas. Maybe we weren't good enough, but the fact that you just that you get sort of stopped from doing that, from progressing, is a shame. And I'm sure that happens all around the world, not just Australia. But anyway, hopefully we'll get through the worst and things can get back to normal.
Hopefully. We're meant to be like all open, all doors in 3 weeks' time. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. That's Boris's plan. The 21st of June apparently is when we can. So we'll see.
Well, just in time for the summer.
Just in time for the summer, exactly, and the Euros as well. Just in time for all the second rounds of the Euros. So that'd be good. Yeah. But we had 10,000 at the last game of the season at West Ham. We had 10,000 at the Southampton game. So that was great.
10,000 to see a good win.
Exactly. See us go above Tottenham.
Yeah.
Seems all good to me, man.
Yeah.
Seems all good to me.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And obviously,
but all good.
Yeah, nosebleed time. I had altitude sickness, I think, Steve, to be honest. Although, we were like 4th. I was like, what's going on here? Oh, bless.
Oh, but it's fantastic to see, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see the boys doing so well. Fantastic. It's about time as well.
Yeah, it is about time. And it's funny because actually we spoke just before, and obviously you've come dressed for the interview, which I'm a big fan of that.
See, try and get this.
The Thames Ironworks.
Oh, it is a size too small, but anyway.
blame lockdown. Blame lockdown, Steve. That's what I always do.
This is the lockdown kilos. That's right.
So that was the last game you attended at the London Stadium, the Juventus game.
Yeah, so it was the opening of it was meant to be the official opening, but I think there was a couple of games before that with Europe. I took my family over to Europe and was lucky enough to hook up with Slaven Bilic, who I still contact with, and he looked after me. There is a story if we got time.
Of course,
he looked after me and got
me
me and my son. Fantastic. Well, he got me and my son a couple of tickets, but it was really late because we were traveling all around Europe, and we just happened to be in England at the time in London. And I messaged him. I said, "Look, I know it's only the game's tomorrow, but there's any chance of getting a couple of tickets?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll find something for you." So it was in the summer, obviously, and I don't know if you remember, it was a really nice day. So I turned up and got with my son. He was only 8 at the time, and went in, asked for the tickets, and they gave me the tickets. Went to the first security check, and they looked me up and down, and my son, and called somebody over. Yeah, they said, "Yeah, come through." And went through to the next checkout, and we're getting higher above the stadium, higher and higher. And I thought, we'll have decent seats here. And anyway, we ended up in the director's box, and I met, and it was fantastic in the director's box with all the big names and all the Juventus hierarchy. In fact, there was a photo with the security guards kept looking at us for some reason. I don't know why. And I met Slaven the next day for lunch, and he said, "Look, I said thanks for the tickets." Actually, he looked after us that night, but the next day he said, "Look, next time you come to the game, do you think you could wear, some shoes and some pants, some trousers as opposed to shorts and flip flops?" And I said, "Well, you could have bloody told me you're sending me in the director's box. I didn't know. I thought I was just going in one of the, behind the dugout or behind the goals or something like that." So I didn't realise we were going in the director's box. And me and my son were dressed in shorts and thongs. And at half time, my son goes, "Oh, Dad, I'm really hungry, And I go, "All right, we'll go for a pie and chips downstairs. We're not going into the restaurant there having something to eat." So it was quite a funny episode for us in the end, and a little bit embarrassing, I think. I think it was Karen Brady who said, "Next time you invite those Aussies, make sure they know how to dress."
Yeah.
So anyway,
I love it, man.
It was all good, but he really looked after us, and he got us down into the change rooms after the game, and my son and obviously Julian Dix was his assistant, I think, and managed to catch up with him, which was fantastic. And Slaven, as generous as he is, he just said to the kit man, "Listen, just sort something out for the young fella," and he threw a whole heap of shirts in and shorts and a couple bit of other memorabilia for my son, and it was fantastic. So I thought I'd put this one on. This is actually what they wore. It was I think this must have been the old logo, was it?
That was the Thames. The Thames Ironworks. Yeah. It was, man.
So this was it was an anniversary logo, I think. So yeah,
I like the shirt. I like the shirt. It was a good shirt.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a good shirt. Right. So I've
got a couple, mate. I'll send you one over.
Yeah, send us one over. It'll be in about 3 seasons' time, based on how the post is working at the moment. So yeah,
that's it. That's right. That's right.
So you've alluded to obviously knowing Slaven and Julian Dix. Now, for some people, Steve, they might be too young to remember you. I'll be honest. Some people might be too young to remember you. So let's go back. So you signed in 96. You signed in
96.
In 96. How did that happen? Because obviously you were in Australia for Canberra Cosmos, and then you end up being at West Ham. What happened?
Yeah, so I connected with I've just had a mental blank, with Barry Silkman. So Silky, who was really good friends with. How could you forget Silky, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I connected with Silky, and I was desperate to come overseas. I spent 2 years in Italy when I was 16 in a team in the Serie A, and in Australia, football at that time, it's changed now, but at that time it was a part-time sport. It was worse than non-league. We trained 2 nights a week. Play on the weekend. We'd be playing in fairly poor and unprofessional environments, and I just had a will to try and get overseas. And at that time, I probably didn't know what else I could do. So it was a level of desperation, and I managed to get hold of Barry Silkman, and he just flew me over. He said, look, I sent him a video, and I had a really good 2 seasons before that in the top flight in Australia. And I sent him the video highlights, and, all video highlights are fantastic, right? You never send shit video highlights. So he must have seen something and thought, well, so he said, look, just jump on the plane and we'll see what we can do. So at the time, he said to me, he said to the story that he told me was he said to Harry Redknapp, look, I've got a kid coming from Australia, goalkeeper. Can he train with you for a week, set up a practice game, and I'll invite some scouts to come and have a look and see where we can sort of place him. We don't really know where he's at. And that weekend that I was traveling was the weekend that Neil Finn made his debut against Man City, when Les Searley, bless his soul, got injured in the warm-up. So there was a bit of a goalkeeper crisis at the time at West Ham. And I think Peter Shilton had just come in as cover, right? So I was flying over, and Harry said, look, we've got a bit of a situation. Get him here. We'll have a training. We'll see what he's like. If he's any good, we'll maybe stick him out. Otherwise, you can invite your scouts. We'll put him in a game and hopefully get something. So I went over, and that 1 week's trial lasted a month, and in the end, I got a deal, which I was absolutely over the moon. But I'll just tell you a quick story, right? The first training session, I was shitting myself, right? And I've only ever seen these guys on TV, right? So I've come over and they stuck me in the first team change rooms. I thought, oh shit. So I've sat down and getting my boots on, and I didn't want to look at anyone. I didn't want to look at anyone in the eye. So I've put my boots on, and I look across, and there's a pair of goalkeeper gloves next to me. I think, oh great, common, both goalkeepers. And I look up, and it was Peter Shilton. I fucking nearly fell off my chair because he was an idol of mine, and I'm thinking I need to calm down a little bit. I got Peter Shilton sitting next to me, so it was kind of an intro into the football world, which was in the end it was probably Peter Shilton who helped me get the contract, because I think he just liked the way I had a good work ethic, so he did as well. He loved that sort of stuff, so he liked the way I trained. He liked the way that I was and how determined I was, I suppose, and I think must have put in the good words, So in the end, I think I did well enough to get that deal.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. It's it's one of those, he says, it's almost like it was meant to be, wasn't it? So that sliding doors moment, like the second, like as you were coming, there's a massive goalkeeper crisis, and H was like, hey, we need some cover, man. And I love things like that. Everything just seems to just work.
That's
work
right.
For you, man.
But no, that's right, Russ. But I think football is like that. Football and footballers is like that. And the thing that I tell a lot of kids that I coach and train and give advice to, and even my son, is that you'll always get those sliding door moments, right? You'll always get an opportunity, but if you can be ready to take that opportunity, and I think I was, because I was so desperate, I think because I was just shit at everything else, so I thought I need to do this. So you got to be ready for those sliding door moments, and I reckon that story, that chance story, is probably. Every footballer has got that story to say, well, if I was, I was in the right place at the right time, or they needed this guy, or, the keeper got injured and I made my debut and kept the spot, or whatever, whatever it was. So, but I was fortunate, I was lucky. And the fact that my agent and Harry Redknapp were best mates as well probably didn't help. It's probably helped as well, So, all these things sort of fell into place.
As soon as you said Barry Silkman, I was like, okay, well, that makes sense now.
Yeah, that's right. Discussions over the horses.
And
we
exactly.
won't go into that.
Yeah, we'll keep that quote here. Move that to the side. But obviously, there was an Australian contingent as well, because there was you had old Laser, you had Lazaridis, you had Robbie Slater was there as well, wasn't there? So there was a few of you, weren't there?
The young boy Chris Coyne as well.
Chris Coyne, yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, so I mean that was nice.
Russ, at that time, Russ, in Australia in general, the EPL in general had a big Australian contingent. I can remember, we played. I think we played. Who was it? Geez, my memory's gone, man. We played Aston Villa. I know. It's like so. Yeah, Aston Villa, and you had Bosnich there, and then we were up at Blackburn, and there was another keeper called John Filand who was there, and then there was another guy, Frank Cotty. So it was almost like everywhere we went, there was one or two Aussies floating around in each team, you know. And it's funny because here in Australia they call it the golden generation. You know, that sort of mid-90s teams that did reasonably well at the World Cup as well. At that stage, we actually beat you guys 3-1 at Fulham's ground, and we had a really good team: Viduka, Kuhl, Lucas Neal, Kevin Muscat. We had some really good players, right? And they keep saying, "Well, where's that golden generation? We're not producing it." And the fact that is now, right, that if the league in Australia was what it was when I was growing up, I don't know whether I would have been that desperate to go overseas, because I could have been earning a decent living here, being a big fish in a small pond, in a shit league. You know, and I don't want to give it a huge disrespect to the A-League, but in comparison, it doesn't compare, you know, to the top flight Europe. So people like myself and a lot of others had that level of desperation to make it overseas. And that's what gave us then, you know, so nearly every player in that national team was playing in a top flight somewhere, whether it was the UK, England, Scotland, you know, wherever it was, you know, Italy, Germany, wherever. So you had a fantastic team, but now even I see young kids go overseas, and after 2 or 3 years, they say, "Oh, you know, we had one kid, you know, I didn't make the Ajax first team, so he came back at age 19." I go, "Well, fuck, man, there's not many, you know, players anywhere making the Ajax first team at 19." You know, so but it's an easy step to come back, Russ. Do you know what I mean? So you know, then they're big fish in small ponds, and we don't progress, I don't think. So it's been great for the domestic league, but I don't think for a national team it's been the best thing. But anyway,
it makes perfect sense, man. Makes perfect sense. And as you said, you know, there's not only was there a good contingent of Australian players in the around the West Ham squad as well, but in general, I mean, you know, you talk about the golden generation, sort of that Redknapp era to me was a bit like a golden generation for a West Ham fan, because you had such an eclectic group of players. And you know, for you guys, particularly yourself as well, coming into this, you got, as you said, you got, you know, Schultz, you've got Les, you got, and you just got all these. Training must have just been, like Moncur, people like that. Training must have been an absolute riot.
Do you know what, Russ? It was, I was, you know, not obviously at the time, but you know, a few years later, I was really aware that I was involved in a league and a team that was kind of changing. You know, players were going from 2-3 grand a week to 15-20 grand a week. It was that era that where the money really started coming in. But then with the likes of Ruud Gullit at Chelsea, Arsene Wenger, the foreign coaches coming in, the foreign players started coming. And Harry took huge advantage of that. And we had players like Paulo Futre, you know, Dimitrescu, Radochoy, you know, Mark Rieper, although he was there, Slaven Bilic, you know, came in. So it was a really exciting time. And it was an exciting time for a new player like myself to come into a team. But I also saw that it was a bit of a nervy time for the English boys coming through, because all of a sudden they're not competing against each other. They're competing against a lot of influx of foreigners. You know, I mean, England's always had foreigners, but I reckon that sort of mid-90s, there was more of these foreigners coming in.
Yeah. It was
certainly
more
into West Ham.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a real quick story. You know, we were doing our pre-season in the forest. I can't remember what it's called. Is it Hainaut Forest?
Hainaut Forest, yeah.
So we started day one doing our pre-season, and I'd already been there. So this was 96-97 season, and I'd already been there for 4 or 5 months. So I knew most of the boys. So I piled in the car with the young lads, you know, getting in the car, and we're all, you know, climbing out of the car from the training ground, and then the next minute there's a limo pulls up, and I don't know if anyone's
I've heard this story. You say it. I've heard this story. Jones used to tell me the story, but I want you to say it.
And the driver, I mean, I'm probably, adding a bit of mayonnaise here, but the driver with his cap pulls up and, gets out of the car and, nice and fresh Paolo Futre comes out of the car ready for his pre-season training, and we're all going, fucking look at that. It's, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant, but he was an interesting character and I got really close with him. And I know you've mentioned it, but I've got a fantastic, if you got time, I've got a fantastic story. Well, I think it's fantastic because I was involved in it, but a great story. He hardly spoke any English,
Yeah.
And I'll move on to it if that's okay. Is that all right?
Yeah,
if I tell
Steve,
this story?
mate,
Yeah.
honestly, I'd rather you talk than I talk. So I'm more than happy to sit here and listen.
So, he spent a lot of time in Italy, and my parents are Italian, right? And I lived in Italy for a couple of years, so I speak fairly fluent Italian. And I knew of Futre because of, his fantastic stuff that he did in Italy, right? So when he came to the club, it was, like another hero turning up to this club that I was part of. And we become, I wouldn't say we become close. It was more of, because we got on well, it was more we become close because of necessity, because I could speak Italian and he hardly spoke English. So I ended up being his unofficial translator. So anyway, we got, all pre-season, get through all that sort of stuff. We go away, we've got games and all that sort of thing. We went on tour for about 3 weeks, I think it was. And then we get back and Arsenal's our first game of the season. Now, Ludo McCloskey broke his finger in the preseason game, so I played most of those preseason games, and he wasn't 100% fit until he had a fitness test before the game. So I was shitting myself already. I was thinking I might be playing in this game, right? So I was nervous already. So the day before we have our final training session, and I could hear yelling and screaming walking into the change rooms after the session, and I'm thinking, what's going on, and it's Futre's swearing and, in Portuguese though. And I went to him, what's wrong? He goes, no. He goes, this is not right. In Italian, so he goes, this is not right. This is bullshit. He goes, I need to speak to the manager. So anyway, next minute, and I just want to keep my head down. All right. I'm already overwhelmed with what the hell's going on, and that Ludo's got to have this fitness test before the game. And so anyway, Harry comes to me and says, Steve, come in my office. I've got to speak to Paolo and you need to translate. And I just didn't want to get involved. So anyway, I walk into his room and he sits down and I sit down and there's another chair there. And I'm going, where's Paolo? And we got nothing to say, me and Harry, right? There's no small talk, there's no chit chat, it's just silent. Yeah. And I'm going, and it felt like an hour and it was like, maybe 5 minutes. Anyway, he walks in. So he wants to make the big entrance. He walks in, he sits down, he goes, right. He goes, Harry goes to me, Steve, ask him why he's so upset. What's wrong with him? And so I ask him and he says, look, he goes, he promised me, because Paolo had a bad knee injury, right?
Yeah.
We had a few bad knee injuries and Harry, I think, signed him on a bit of a gamble that his knee would be okay. And he said, look, and when I signed, Harry promised me the first 5 games that he would play me. If I was no good after that, fine. He goes, why aren't I in the first 11? So I've got to translate back to Harry. And then Harry's going, look, Paolo, we've been assessing you. The doctors are saying this, and we think you need a couple more weeks. And he keeps going. And my Italian, I thought I was good, at Italian, but I wasn't that good, right? And he's going, and I'm trying to make things up here, saying, and he's swearing at me, saying, he's an F and this, and you're a liar. And I'm trying to calm the situation. And I probably shouldn't have, because it wasn't my place to change what he was saying, In the end, and I won't tell you exactly what he said to Harry, but it wasn't good, right? And it had son, and it had other things in there, right? Son of a, and anyway, and he stormed out, and then there's dead silence, and I'm sitting there with Harry, and all I'm thinking is, I might be playing tomorrow against Arsenal, biggest game of my career. And he goes, what did he say? What did he say? I said, Harry, he's not happy. We'll just say that he's not. And I've had to walk out. So the next day we get to the game and there's yelling and screaming in the change rooms. And I'm going, and this is how I remember it. And I don't know if it was exactly right. I'm going, what's going on? And he calls me. I go, fucking not again. Paolo, I've got to get ready for this game. He goes, why aren't I number 10? I go, I don't know, man. John Moncur was number 10. I go, I don't
Yeah.
know. And I go, he goes, come with me. I go, pal, anyway, he goes, why is he wants to know why he's not, boss, he wants to know why he's not number 10. I don't know. I just want to get ready for this game. And apparently him and Moncur, because Moncur was number 10, did a deal that he could have his villa in Portugal for every month for the next 10 years or something like that if he gave him the number 10, and that's how it worked out. You know, and here's a kid from Australia stuck in the middle of this situation, which I really didn't want to be in. But yeah, looking back, it's quite a funny scenario, you know.
Yeah. That even that little sort of, it just epitomised that whole era for me, that Redknapp era. It was a bit like a soap opera.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, it was, yeah.
You had these, as you said, they had these foreign players came in. Most of we didn't know who they were. Obviously, just before you, obviously, in the same season you signed, obviously before then, in the summer, we'd signed obviously Mr. Boogers. So had all that stuff as well. And also you had these sort of youngsters coming. You had like Rio and Joe, Lampard and people like that. Just a real sort of cacophony of different things coming through. And you know, yourself stuck in training, you must have, every day, you're like, you know, something must have happened. And then Monks, and then we've had Monks on, and
he's a character, and I don't know what it was about John Moncur, right? But he just found it. He's found a lot of pleasure in taking the piss out of me. I don't know why, you know. And I was quite a bit bigger than him, so I would stand up to him every now and then. But he just had an ability to get under your skin, you know. And it's that East End, or where he's from North London, I think. But it's that sort of, and it's that it's those scenarios that most people don't really know, that you got to survive those scenarios because you could get eaten alive in the change room, you know. And I was quite lucky that I've become really close with Slaven Bilic because he just signed when I was on trial. So we were in the same hotel and we become really close and we've stayed in touch, you know. And he was, you know, I was almost, you know, hanging on to his coattails most of the times, you know. He kind of looked after me and gave me that little in with the respect of the main boys, because in football, you don't get the respect of your teammates properly until you play a game. And I was the number 2 keeper. And until you play and you prove yourself, you're never really in there. You're on the outer. Do you know what I mean? But you're never really accepted as one of the boys until you're actually playing in that first team. Sure. But he helped me. But Monks, you know, there's a lot of stories, and I'm sure, you know, you've heard them all before. But he was a fantastic player, by the way. Absolutely fantastic player. But just a nutcase. You know? Yeah.
Just a nutcase, exactly. And because when I interviewed him, obviously he's calmed down a bit. You know, he's a born again Christian and stuff like that. Good luck to him.
Okay.
And when we started talking, you could see this sort of glint came back in his. He started off quite sort of straight laced, and as we started talking, and then it was almost like sort of regression therapy. He was sort of going back, and you could just see. He was like. And then just this like verbal diarrhea came out of all these stories, and then I ran naked down here, and I did this, and I did this, and this. Yeah, brilliant. Love that time.
He'd have some stories as well. I mean, I've heard a few, but he'd have some stories as well. You know, with the likes of players that he played with as well. But
fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Yeah. So,
and obviously, you know, you, as you said, you know, although you were number 2, and we've had a few number 2s actually on here. We've had like we had Ian Foyer on as well, who was we've had Ian on and quite a few. And it must be one of those really frustrating things being a number 2, where you sort of, you know, you want your team to do well, but obviously you want to play as well. And I think Ian said the same thing. He's like, you know, Ludo was doing so well. Ludo was Ludo, and I wasn't gonna, I was gonna try as hard as I can and be, as you said, take those opportunities when you're given them.
Yeah.
It must be like a strange thing, because obviously you goalkeepers, you go over and train on your own, and you know, do your own thing, but you still have this bond, despite the fact you're competing for one place. It seemed that, you know, goalkeepers have an incredible bond amongst you. We've interviewed loads of goalkeepers here. Loads of goalkeepers for some reason.
Yeah, no, Russ, you're right, and they call it sort of that goalkeepers union, and I think it's because you know, when you see a goalkeeper not have a good game, you know what he's going through, and it hurts, you know, and you can't hide anywhere, and so you sympathise with him, right? So you know, I come across some shit characters as well. Don't get me wrong, but but most times, like some of my best mates that I've stayed in touch with in football are goalkeepers, and it's because you end up having that mutual respect, and you can understand everything that they're going through, both the highs and the lows. Even though you wish you wanted to play, and most times, there was never anyone when I played who I thought I wasn't as good as goalkeeper-wise, and that included Ludo.
Yeah.
At the time, Ludo, I just didn't think I was ready because I didn't have that experience.
Gotcha.
Now, looking back now, I was kidding myself. He was way better goalkeeper than me. But at the time, that's how I thought, and I reckon that's how most keepers think. Yeah, I'm better than him. I could have saved that. I could have done that. And I think you've got to have that mentality.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
But without it being arrogant. And that's why I think most keepers stick together, and they form good bonds while they're together.
Yeah.
And that, for the most part, is all goalkeepers generally think the same way. But you do have your exceptions, and the exception I think is Les Sealy.
Yeah.
He was a strange character, but a great guy, and really generous in terms of like, he was coming to the end of his career, but he was still fighting to continue playing. But he was generous in the sense that sometimes it'd be just me and him training, right? Because we'd be, the first team would be off and we me and him. And instead of him saying, right, Steve, this is what I want to do, he'd be saying, Steve, I've seen your game and I reckon you need to improve on this. Let's work a little bit on that. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though we were competing for position, he was generous in wanting to see me develop and help,
Wow.
But he was a strange character. I don't know.
We've had Joe on, we've had his son on, and and Joe sort of made, in the same way how he's generous with his time. I mean, Joe mentioned, obviously they're living together they're both in Loughton, and he made Joe get to the ground on his own. He wouldn't take him to the ground. Joe, and obviously it's a bit of an arse to get to Chadwell Heath from Loughton. You have to go on the central line back into Woodford, and stuff like that. It was a strange character, but obviously, as you said, he was so generous with his time that it's one of those things where
and and how we had the introductions with Danny Norton, and I didn't know Danny, right, and until he moved to Australia, and I hear Danny speak about him highly, and I hear all these other guys speak about him highly, and I only had a small period of my career with him, but I know why they speak like that about him. But he was a different cat as well. He was a different character.
Exactly.
Exactly. But interesting, and it's great. It's great to come across. I mean, Ludo was a fantastic guy. He was unbelievable bloke. He was so consistent with his character. It was unbelievable. But his wife and son went back home one week, and he said, "Look, Steve, come with me. We're at this little pub near our house. Stay the night. We'll have dinner. We'll have a couple of drinks, and then we'll go back to train tomorrow." So I said, "No problem." And I reckon he did this to everyone, right? All the young goalkeepers. So got in and had a nice dinner at this pub, and they knew him really well. And he got me on these Czech beers, and then he got me on this whiskey, and then he got me on something else. And then the next day, because sometimes we wouldn't have a goalkeeper coach, so he would drive the sessions. And the next day, and I reckon he did it on purpose, he worked me that hard, I was nearly throwing up. And he wasn't even breaking a sweat, because he was one of the fittest guys in the team. Like, outfield specimen of a body. And he worked me to the I was gone, but also gone from, like I was seeing three of him. It was like he hadn't had a drink, unless he was throwing them in the pot plant. I don't know. But it was, it was just things like that. He was just a really nice guy,
Yeah, top guy. And then, as you said, you signed for the club, and then like you had these 3 first team appearances in a week.
Yeah,
didn't you?
So I know it was crazy, because what happened? I actually, we had the 2 weeks before I played, we were away at Leeds, I think it was.
Yeah.
And Harry pulled me in before the game and said, "Steve, you got a chance to go on loan, and we really want to see you playing, right?" And I I said, no, I actually didn't want to go because it was at Crewe Alexandra, and they were like 2 divisions below at the time,
Yeah,
right? And I didn't want to go. And I actually sat down with Slaven after dinner. He said, Steve, go. You got to go. He goes, you got to play. Doesn't matter that it's 2 leagues or whatever it is. He goes, just go and play. So I caught the train from Leeds up to Crewe. That was a shock of my life. And I played there the next day. So I played the Sunday. Then I played Wednesday midweek. Then I played Saturday away at Bournemouth, all for Crewe. And then then I got a call from the guys at West Ham saying, listen, Ludo's injured. You got to come back. You got to play for us. And in the last game that I played, I actually injured myself. I hurt my shoulder. And I was thinking I might need a week off, right? And again, I went to Slav and I said, Slav, I got this, my shoulder's gone, mate. He goes, Steve, just play. He goes, you might not get another chance. And he was right. So I ended up having a fitness test the morning of the cup game against Barnet. And it was hurting me. And I went, I just got to do it. So I ended up playing that night. And, I don't know if you remember the game, and I'm sure most people do. I let a shit goal in one of the first opportunities. The ball, guy had a shot, come off my chest. They scored 1-0 down. And I was gutted. And then the next minute, it was like a lob come into the box, like easy, uncontested. And I caught the ball, and there was a huge cheer from our fans. And I'm going, what's happened? And it was a sarcastic cheer that I caught the ball. And like, I'm going, what have I done? Luckily we come out of that game with a draw. I made a couple of good saves second half. And then we went away and played at Forest away, and I had a blinder. It just worked for me. I had an absolute blinder. And then we played the second leg at home, and we won, I think, 1-0. Yeah. And then, Ludo had his fitness test the following week against Liverpool. And I was thinking, I've got to play this game, man. And he had the fitness test and played. I would have loved to have played that game, but, that's how things work out. And then that's kind of what led me to push to go on loan again, And I didn't want to leave West Ham. I wanted to stay. And my agent said, Silky said, look, Steve, Reading have just had an injury to their keeper. And they're desperate for someone, they're going to come down and watch your reserve game. And he said, listen, they really need someone who commands the area, who organizes. He goes, whatever you do, what Silky's like, I don't know if you've ever met him, but he goes, I won't try and put his accent on. He goes, whatever you do, just shout, just keep shouting the whole game. Right. And he reckons I was shouting at my left back and he wasn't even there. He was like tucked in. I'm shouting, hey, I just shouting at everything. And the first thing Jimmy Quinn, it was Jimmy Quinn and I can't remember the other coach's name. He goes, geez, he talks a lot, doesn't he? He goes, yeah, he does. So, I ended up then going there on loan and doing really well and ended up, signing there, which, like I said, I was actually gutted because I felt I could have offered something to West Ham as a club, and I was just, I was 25 when I come over. So I was reasonably old, and I probably needed a couple of years to bed myself in, but that's the way it works. And I, I enjoyed a good time before my injuries at Reading and played at Wolves and Palace as well. So, when I look back, I kind of, I'm really happy with the way things worked out for me. But I would have loved to have stayed a little bit longer at West Ham,
Yeah. And something I ask a lot of players. Obviously, you play for West Ham and Reading and Wolves and Palace. When do you look out for all those results when they come on the telly? Do you watch those games? Do you have an affiliation with those clubs that you played with?
Yeah, more so West Ham and
Good
Reading.
answer, Steve. Good answer.
Yeah. More so those two. I mean, Reading was probably because I also spent almost 8 years living there because I stayed based there even when I went to Wolves and Palace, and I went to Gillingham as well and played a bit of non-league, so I kind of stayed and based at Reading. So I used to go and watch a lot of their games, and a lot of my good friends are still around that area. So, but definitely those two clubs are the clubs that I look out for the most, and my son now is just starting to understand I suppose the achievements that I had, and so for him because West Ham's in the EPL, he then only associates me with West Ham and says, "Oh, West Ham are playing, Man United. Dad, that was one of the games you were involved in, and sometimes you'll ask to look at the books and all that sort of stuff. So it's great, that's it's West Ham's that kind of club though, not just for someone who's played for them. I think for most people, it's kind of their second favourite club. I think it still has that attitude of being a family club as well. I mean, I don't know what it's like now at the new stadium. I know they've had their challenges, but I think it's always been a club like that.
Yeah, and I think in the last 18 months, I think since the last season really, since Mr. Moyes has taken the helm, there is a changing attitude. It does seem amongst the fan base. I know what's happened in the global pandemics have been an awful time in the world for everyone. I think it's helped West Ham fans reconnect with the club a little bit, to be honest. And there's a team there which is working hard. Obviously, in the nosebleeds in terms of our positioning. But as you said, it's always, and actually, I've interviewed lots of ex-players, and they all say how much they enjoyed their time and it was like a family club. And, once or twice would have been sort of normal. But everyone's saying it, you sort of realise. And obviously we interview fans. We've interviewed loads in Australia. We've interviewed loads in India and America and all over the goddamn world. And we're this funny little club in East London. They all support. So, they're doing something right now.
I think it's the area's an area of battlers, of people who kind of get stuck in and have a go, the old markets and all that sort of stuff, market traders. And I think that's probably where it maybe comes from. Everyone loves to see an underdog as well. So, and then West Ham have had some fantastic players over the years as well. So, I mean, the 66 World Cup really that
exactly.
West Ham won.
So, we won the World Cup, exactly.
So, no, it was good. It was good. It was good times, great memories.
It was, and I mean, sort of that period was a bit of that sort of Redknapp era. There was a number of relative prolonged success in West Ham's modern history. Shortly after you left, obviously, then we got to the Untitled Cup final in '99, and we won that, and we was doing fifth, our highest ever Premier League position and stuff like that. So, it was a funny time. Speaking of players, obviously, everyone we get on the channel, we try and get to do an 11. Funny enough, Harry Redknapp didn't do one. Harry didn't do his 11. No, he was too busy. He had another call. What a surprise! Harry was taking another call an hour later. Yes. And he started talking about, he started talking about Bobby Ferguson, and then he just talked about waxing lyrically about Bobby Ferguson, and then he just ran out of time. So everyone we get on the channel, we get to do an 11, to put together an 11 of the play for the ex-players. It's an 11 of the players you played with and trained with as well, because obviously a lot of games you trained as well as played with. So that's what we try and do. It's only a bit of fun.
No problems. I've actually written it down, and I've got a couple extras as well, a few subs. How's that? I've even got some subs there.
No, you can tell.
Unfortunately, I didn't make the cut, but anyway.
Could have got those appearances back up then, Steve. Right. Okay.
That's it, exactly.
Who's in goal then? Who's in goal for the Steve?
So Ludo's in goal.
Yeah,
Ludo's in goal. But I've got two subs, right? I've got two goalkeeper subs. I've got Les Sealy and Peter Shilton. So those three there, they were the time I was playing, and they were just a huge influence on me in terms of just. I suppose I was a little bit overawed as well, because I only ever used to see him on TV, So, but I had a close connection and a good connection with each of them individually and as a group as well. I think we all worked together well. So
loads of experience. Right. Okay. In defence, who's your first defender?
Yeah. So I've got Julian Dix as a fullback.
Yeah. Good old Julian.
So Julian Dixie used to get me before training, and he'd go, right, come on, we're going to go and have it. And he wouldn't warm up. I don't know if you know this.
No. We've had it.
He never used to warm up. So he would say, right, and he was famous for his free kicks and his penalties, right? And it wasn't that he was like a Beckham where he'd, bend it like Beckham. He'd just smash it, right? So he'd go, come on, Steve, we're going out early today. I go, fuck. because you know what, I knew I wouldn't get a warm up because he doesn't want to warm up, so he doesn't want to waste any time. So I'd have to jump in goal, and he'd just smash the balls at me for half an hour, and I'd be trying to make saves. So Dixie was fullback, Slaven Bilic, and he's my captain as well. And you know, because I've been so close with him, so Slaven and Rio Ferdinand. So Rio was only coming through, right? He'd only played 1 or 2 games. I think while I was there, he went on loan to Bournemouth, but I got to put Rio in there for what he's done after I'd sort of influenced his career. After. Well, we used to get a lift into the ground. He used to get a lift into the ground with me because we lived fairly close. So Rio's and Bilic at the back, and Steve Potts I put in there because you know, I played a lot of reserve games with Potts because he was coming towards the end of his career as well. And whether he played first team or whether he played reserves, he had the same attitude. His professionalism was unbelievable. Another guy was Tim Breaker. He was the same, right? Professionalism was unbelievable. If he got put in with the stiffs in the reserves, even at training, he'd be the one leading the line. And he kind of showed me, not he didn't do it intentionally, but from my observation, he showed me what a professional is about, you know. And I would love to see him in his day. So they're my defenders, and nice. And another one I wanted to mention, I only played a couple reserve games with him, was Alvin Martin. He left the year, so I signed the end of '90. So I signed in January. I trialed, signed in March '96, and then you know, carried on. So I played sort of 3 months at the end of that year, and he was, you know, obviously coming to the end of his career, played a few reserve games, and he had a deep voice, big man, you know, like he was just, but he was a gentle giant as well, you know, and again, he was one of those guys who'd sit with you, you know, at lunch and just have a chat to you and ask how you're going and stuff like that. He was a gentleman as well. So he was my sub as a defender.
Nice. Go on, let's move into midfield. I'm loving the team. This is so my era, Steve. It's unbelievable.
Fantastic. So my midfield, and I don't know how I'm going to play. I'm going to mention this guy, and I was fairly close with him, but I just thought he was an exceptional player, Danny Williamson. He was skillful, skill-wise. That kid there, right? He was a few years younger than me, but that kid, he was unbelievable. You know, I think his career ended with a lot of injury, right?
Yeah.
But not just a nice guy, but what a player he was. I mean, you could have stuck him in any of the European leagues and he would have fitted in. He was just such a skillful, great player. So I got Danny Williamson there. Bish was similar. Ian Bishop, he was a fantastic player as well, ball player. But he had a good engine on him as well, man. He was box to box.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got Stan Lazaridis in there in the midfield, wide on the midfield. And then Frank Lampard as well. You know, you can't go past what he did in his career. Again, he was. I'll tell you a really quick story, right, about Barry Silkman. You know, Lampard used to come on for 5 minutes nearly every single game. Come on, 5 minutes to go, and then the shout started being, he's only doing that because of his dad, and he's, you know, getting his. And Harry and Barry Silkman goes, I remember having a chat with a few other players at the Swallow Hotel, and Silky goes, if he becomes a player, I'll eat my hat. and I'm thinking now, did I choose the right agent? I don't know. Did I? Because Frank has been one of the all-time greats, right? And every now and then I say, Silky, what's that hat taste like, man? That was a great call. But so I got 4 at the back, 4 in the midfield, which is Lampard, Lazaridis. Now Stan, right? Whenever he had the ball and he was running at players, you could actually see the fear in the players' eyes.
Yeah.
They didn't know where he was going. He was unbelievable at running with the ball, running at players. So Stan, Frank Lampard, Ian Bishop, just ahead of John Moncur, and John Moncur's on the bench, and Danny Williamson.
Nice.
Danny Williamson. And then my front two, it's got to be Paulo Futre. I've got to put him up front, man. You know, the guy, he was finished when he came to West Ham, although he did sign at Atletico Madrid after us, right? But if ever you get a chance to see any of his highlights before his injuries, mate, he was unbelievable player, massive player. And then the other guy who I spent a bit of time with, only a little bit of time, was Tony Cotty.
Yeah,
he's my other striker.
Oh.
And Tony is interesting because Tony used to do shooting practice. He'd always say to me, "Steve, stay back. I want to do more shooting." And he was shit at training. I don't know whether I just had the measure on him, but he could hardly score. And I remember one day he's walking off. He goes, "Oh, I'm in negotiations for a new contract." He goes, "I've got to score at least 2 goals this weekend. Otherwise, I'm not getting my contract. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to score my 2 goals and get my contract right." And I'm thinking, he hasn't stuck one past me the whole session. He was shit. I go, I feel sorry for this guy. He's not going to get it. And I can't remember which game it was, but he scored 2 goals. But that's what he did. He did it he scored goals in the big games as well. So those 2 are up there. And my sub is the almighty and fantastically looking Dani, the Portuguese guy. And I've only got Dani in there because, look, Dani was a bit of controversy, and he was a great young player. But what I liked the best about Dani was he used to take me out to the clubs, right? And I'd hang off his coattails. The guy was unbelievably good looking, right? And I used to just sit there and just, absorb everything that was coming. I was like the cricketer, when the slips going, I'll have whatever's coming around.
Just chop it off.
Yeah. So Dani's on the bench. So I'll just go through it. So Ludo and Glasgow.
I got it. I got it, man. There it is.
Oh, you got it.
There it is.
Oh, fantastic. How good is that?
There it is, man. Love it. Love it. That is so, love it. That's that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that team.
Brilliant.
It's like they say when you're like a teenager, that's when you love, like, the music you love is the music you listen to when you're a teenager. And I think it's same true with footballers. So when I was a teenager, my footballers were Bishop and Lampard and Moncur and and these guys. And so I love it, man. That's a great team.
Yeah.
And actually, Futre, the only other time Paulo Futre has appeared is in Steve Jones's 11 as well, for the exact same reason you did.
Oh, really?
Jonesy did exactly the same as you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jonesy was, he would have, but because he was, like our training and stuff. I don't know if you remember. I think it was our 3rd game of that season. It may have been, or 4th, against Southampton at home. And that's where he showed his brilliance. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that, but it was that glimpse of what he was able to do, but he just couldn't do it because his legs were gone. Yeah. But training with him and stuff, you see what he was like. He was unbelievable.
Yeah. Steve, man, it's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Oh, no, thank you. I don't know how worthy I am of being on here. I only played a couple of games for the 3 games for the Hammers and a short stint, but it's great. Some great memories of mine, Russ, over the years. And I remember walking off the game that I played against Nottingham Forest, and Julian Dix come up to me, gave me a big hug, and I think there's a photo floating around, and I said to myself, now, whatever happens now, nobody can take away the fact that I've played in the EPL, and that's one of my proudest moments, and like I grew up in a regional area in Australia where I was on a farm. There was the next house was like a mile away, and when I think back to from where I come from and it's all relative because there's other players in my era who played 400 or 500 games, sure. But at the end of the day, we all take away what we did in our careers, and I'm proud of what I did. I probably overachieved. But the thing that got me, I think, was I had a decent work ethic and I had a desperation about wanting to do what I ended up doing. So
I totally agree.
And I'm glad that West Ham picked me.
Yeah, and also I think when you say, I only played 3 times, Steve, there's millions of players or fans around the world who would change their life or give their life away to have played once for West Ham. So I know what you mean, but it doesn't matter if you played 1 or you played 799 like Billy Bonds did. You did something which a lot of people would have loved to have done, and so that's why I love it. It doesn't matter, we interviewed those of the youth team guys who never really broke into the first team, from the 99. We've had various and just to be around that time, and I think that's why the fans love watching these things, because it's great, man. Yeah. So thank you so much.
No problem. My pleasure.
Absolutely. It's brilliant. And obviously, thank you to everyone for watching as well. Whatever you do, give it a share, give it a like, give it a subscribe. And for myself and for Mr. Steve, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jab appointments
That's it.
when you get your jabs. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again
Yeah.
very, very soon. Take care, everyone.
Up the
Much love.
hammers.
Up the hammers. Come on, you irons. Bye
Up the
bye.
hammers. See you
Take
later.
care, everyone. Bye bye.